What's going on, everyone? We all knew this week was going to be another exciting one, and things started off pretty quickly this week. So we have a lot of crypto stocks just ripping to the upside. Kind of reminds me about that NVIDIA-style price action, to be honest with you. And at the same time, we have our girl, Nancy Pelosi, making another $1 million trade. So, of course, we're going to cover that today, but we're also going to cover what is moving in the stock market right now, what to pay attention to, some important earnings for the week, and just what to know going into tomorrow. We have a lot of great setups brewing, and we have a lot to talk about. So make sure to stick with us all the way to the end. But Tom, let's get right into it.
Yeah, Mike, this week's going to be fantastic, and we started off this week with some pretty good moves today. The S&P 500 started moving down from open. It broke the key 507 support that we talked about a little bit yesterday. There was a pretty good move below that, and then at close, actually got all the way down to like 505.80, so that was a good move there on SPY. We even saw stocks like NVIDIA kind of go flat today, just barely up in the green, right? We go to some of the Mag 7s like Apple, they were actually down in the red, so it was a pretty negative day in the market. But one part of the market that was not negative, like you already hinted at, was the crypto side. Man, Coinbase is up 16%. Mara is up 21%. BTC USD is up to 54,800, actually hitting, oh wow, it's not quite 55,000, but very, very close there right before market close. And it's just a huge thing with Bitcoin. It broke 54,000 for the first time since 2021. And anytime this runs, we see those crypto stocks go ballistic like this.
Exactly. So there isn't any major crazy news for why Bitcoin is just ripping to the upside. Basically, there is some hype coming in ahead of the halving event. But with everything being said, there's just a lot of euphoria still in the market right now. And it's just crypto's turn to capitalize on that euphoria. As Tom mentioned, Coinbase and Mara are some of the stocks that ripped to the upside the most today. So keep a close eye on them going into tomorrow. When they move in pretty big ways, as we've all seen today. So that's awesome there. But Tom, like I hinted at just a couple minutes ago, Nancy Pelosi fires again. A couple months ago at this point, we've seen her buy like millions of dollars of NVIDIA call options, and she's done pretty damn well off those, right? It's been a great year for Nancy so far, and she's going for round two, and that is with PANW. So basically this stock, well, there's a lot of things with it, but the first thing is that they actually had a recent deal with NVIDIA where they're going to be working on like 5G security solutions and a bunch of great things like that. Nancy Pelosi got in before this news, and she actually ended up buying millions of dollars worth of PANW call options. More specifically, she bought the PANW 200 strike call options that expire on January 17th of 2025. She bought around 70 of these call options, and a lot of people will say, all right, why on earth would Nancy Pelosi buy the 200 strike call options if the stock is currently at $300 a share? And the main reason for this is because those call options are just much higher quality, right? They're deep in the money, and they just are safer, and they move more with the stock, while at the same time offering Nancy Pelosi a good amount of leverage. So either way, this stock just ripped to the upside today. It was up 7%, and there are sure a lot of eyes on it at this point.
Yeah, there are. I think it really captivated a lot of traders today. And whenever we go back and we look at the report, she made those two purchases, like you said, one on the 12th, one on the 21st, as it's being reported there. And whenever I go back, I mean, this stock had a pretty brutal drop, right? She was probably down quite a bit. You know, the first purchase was up there at the top, and then we saw this big gap down with earnings. Looked like she actually averaged in a little bit when she got in on the 21st. So this is a very interesting setup, Mike. I think that PANW will be a hot stock tomorrow, and probably the hot stock of the week, right? It's up 7% today. It has news with NVIDIA, and I feel like lately NVIDIA is kind of becoming the new AI. Remember how for a little while anyone that mentioned AI would go blasting up? Right now, I feel like if you mention any type of partnership or anything with NVIDIA, man, you're set.
Nowadays, you can't ask for a better headline than NVIDIA, AI, and maybe if you're feeling a little bit extra special, maybe even throw in some crypto headline in there as well. But either way, keep a close eye on PANW in the short term. Of course, whenever Nancy makes a trade, it is definitely worth watching. And while that's awesome, one thing that is not so awesome that we still have to talk about is the rapidly increasing delinquency rates for credit cards and auto loans. Credit cards and auto loans are seeing the highest delinquencies since the Great Recession. We can see that over like the past couple months especially, the delinquency rates have just been soaring, and we have not seen an increase this dramatic since, again, the Great Recession. So just keep this in mind going forward. There's no like tradable stock based off of this setup this second, but it's just a bad thing for the overall economy that you just want to keep tucked in the back of your head going forward.
Yeah, it's never good. Anytime you see loan delinquencies going up, bankruptcies rising, and etc., it's never good. It has a really bad outlook for the economy. Obviously, it makes for some really bad headlines as well. And I think that this is just showing that overall, what the Federal Reserve is doing to the economy is starting to pressure people, right? And I think that this is kind of proof of that in seeing these delinquencies going up. But at the end of the day, delinquencies are pretty important, you know, and whenever you see any comparison to 2008 and that Great Recession, I mean, it's never a good thing, right? Anytime you're getting back to those levels.
Exactly. And the main thing to keep in mind right now is that, you know, the market, it's for the most part pretty sunshine and rainbows like, right? As the market is, you know, a couple percent away from its all-time high, and many stocks are ripping to the upside despite some not so favorable economic data. Whatever it needs to keep in mind going forward is that the market we are in now is fundamentally different than the market we were in the past. Check this out. The top 10 stocks in the S&P 500 make up about 34% of the S&P 500's weightings. Going as far back as we could look, this is the highest percentage ever, right? All this is saying in simple terms is that the top 10 stocks in the market run the show right now. Stocks like Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, Google, stocks like that have a giant influence on the market, and they quite literally control it. So it's like when we're looking at the market on a day-by-day basis, you have to keep an extra close eye on these powerhouse big tech stocks like Nvidia, Apple, Google, and all the other ones I mentioned, because again, they're running the show right now.
Yeah, every single morning, like right whenever the market opens, I'm sitting there just like cycling through these stocks on the live stream, like the Mag 7, and then of course the big players out there, of course. Man, like they really do run the show. Like that top 10 weighting is huge, and even just Microsoft and Apple alone, I can't believe they're weighting nowadays. I'll say this though, Mike, I'm glad that they have it weighted like that. Like thank God they're not weighting some of these companies that have been down stuck in the dumps, right? Or else we'd be seeing a big move down. But I think that just goes to show that maybe the market isn't necessarily showing the big picture, right? Because it's so heavily weighted towards these few stocks that if they run, let's say like the whole food sector, the auto sector, everything else is down, these might outweigh it. So it's kind of like, I feel like the market doesn't show the picture, and we can kind of go back to those loan delinquencies, right? And it just shows that pressure on the overall economy is just getting greater and greater. So I think that's very interesting as well.
Exactly. Like the top, let's say 10% of companies are just feasting right now, while like, let's say the bottom 50% of companies are definitely taking a decent hit. And one thing that's pretty interesting, if you go to like a max weekly chart on SPY right now, you can see that it is a pretty decent amount higher than the high made in the beginning of 2022, right? SPY's been on a tremendous run lately. However, when you go to ticker symbol RSP, it is quite a different story, because this is basically the S&P 500, but where everything is weighted equally. And it's not even past that 2022 high yet. So that just goes to show you that, like, quite literally, the top stocks in the market are driving this rally that we've recently seen. So just keep a very, very close eye on them going forward. And the good news is that the top, let's say 10 stocks in the market also have like the craziest moves. So like it makes sense to trade them more than the other stocks anyways, at least in the short term.
Yeah, it really does. And, a lot of people, I think, underrate a lot of these stocks, too. Like, I know NVIDIA is crazy, but, we go look at, like, Apple and Microsoft. I think they are even great stocks to trade. They might not move up like NVIDIA would, but they still have really decent moves intraday. A lot of good breakdowns. Key supports play pretty well. And, there's always great opportunities out there. And Mike will be talking about a lot of these opportunities here really soon. So make sure you guys stick around for it.
There we go. But of course, we can't move on without diving deep into this week's economic schedule. We do have a pretty exciting week on this side of things. I would say the most important thing is going to be on Thursday as we have PCE or inflation data coming out. So keep a close eye on that 1 hour before the market opens. We have some GDP data on Wednesday. And then tomorrow, Tuesday, we do have some durable goods data, but honestly, it won't be as important. Wednesday and Thursday are the most important days, but enough with that boring stuff, Tom. Let's get right into today's earnings and the earnings for the rest of the week. As we talked about in yesterday's video, there are a handful of exciting stocks set to report. One stock I was watching quite a bit was Zoom, and they just reported in after hours today. So far, the stock has been ripping to the upside in after hours, and their earnings were pretty decent overall. So I would say keep a close eye on this one to the upside tomorrow for a possible earnings continuation.
Man, I'm really glad to see Zoom popping up, Mike. They were getting pretty low on the year. They were right around support, and now they're like right back up into the mid, almost the high point of that recent range. They were sitting around $74, $75 a lot at the beginning of the year, so I'll be looking forward to uptrend, maybe back up towards those levels, but it's really good to see Zoom popping up in after hours here. That's quite the move, too. I mean, it's going to have a pretty good gap on the chart tomorrow. Unity also reported tonight, and it is quite the opposite. So that kind of sucks there. But hey, it's good to see Zoom moving. I know that we've been talking about them quite a bit, and I know a lot of people have been buying them up off these lows. So good job to you guys sticking with those shares.
All right, there we go. So let's get right into the fun stuff for today, which are some setups for tomorrow. A stock I'm watching pretty closely right now is Google. So GOOGL. This one got absolutely smacked today as it fell by 4.5%, which is quite a bit for a stock like Google. It was just non-stop to the downside all day long. It had a very weak close as well. Strong volume too. So I'm going to be watching this one pretty closely to the downside going into tomorrow. We haven't seen this level of just like consistent selling pressure in a stock like Google in quite some time. So it's definitely something you don't see every day.
Yeah, you really don't. It's down 4.44%, a lot more than the average percent fall there. So I really like this to the downside as well. And I actually like another play to the downside tomorrow quite a bit too, and that is AMD. I've been watching that one over the past couple days. It was very flat today. It had a drop off at open and, didn't really get back to those lows that it reached at open, right? But that's actually right around a big support at 175. So I'm watching that area very, very closely, and we can go to Bookmap and see that 175 is a major support. There was a lot of shares stacked up there all day today, so if we start breaking back under 175 tomorrow, I will go ahead and look at puts to the downside. It's really good to have Bookmap on your side to identify these supports, and I love seeing all those shares stacked up there. So if we break there, go ahead and look at puts.
Yeah, you gotta love Bookmap, Tom, with those hidden support and resistance levels. So good stuff there. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely right now is Alibaba, and it's actually to the upside. This one has been trying to run up multiple times over like the past couple trading days, but every time it tries to make the run, it just gets rejected right back down. So we're getting closer and closer to pushing through that resistance level, but it hasn't done it just yet. So I'm watching this $76.60 area and all the way up to like $76.90 on BABA. This little range right here, I'm looking to see a break through that and then a continuation higher. There's a lot of selling pressure overhead, but if BABA can get through that, it can make a pretty nice run. So keep a close eye on it.
It's like a snake. It's like coiling up, ready to strike, and it's like just about to break out, right? We see this happen a lot on a lot of these bullish setups, so I will go ahead and watch that as well. If that big resistance breaks, then it should make for a pretty good move. So I'll keep BABA on the radar. With my next play, I'm going with CCJ, and this one's also to the upside. I noticed uranium stocks were doing pretty well today on a day when the market was selling off. Even towards the end of day, whenever SPY started getting lower, CCJ was moving up into close. So this gives me hope for tomorrow. We look at the daily, and CCJ has been dipping quite a bit. So I'm actually looking for this one to start to have a few green candles back up. This doesn't mean it's going to explode all the way back up to $46, but just a nice move to like 42 to 43 in the short term would be nice.
All right, sounds good. So keep a close eye on this one for tomorrow as well. But it's now about that time for today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have OXY to the upside.
Oxy, yeah, the oil stocks did great today. There's a good double top here intraday. So if they can break $60.75, eye up those calls.
There we go. And with the next one, we have Microsoft to the downside.
MSFT, yeah, these big tech stocks are rough here. If they break under 406.50, then go ahead and look at puts.
All right, and then with the last one, we are looking at NVIDIA for both directions.
Yeah, NVIDIA was pretty wild, right? Them and AMD were kind of flatter on the day, but they are around support. So if they start to break under 784, just under 785, then eye up the puts. That's a pretty big area of support. Now, if they break resistance around 804, then eye up calls.
All right, so we have the upside level for calls and we have the downside level for puts. Don't forget about the downside level on Microsoft and then the upside level on OXY. OXY, Microsoft, and NVIDIA are all on watch for tomorrow. Basically, we are looking through breakthroughs of the levels Tom listed and then continuations in the direction that is listed. So keep a close eye on these three for tomorrow. But Tom, there was also a pretty exciting big money trade today with ticker symbol JD. So the big money put around $1.1 million into the JD 20 strike call options that expire in January 17th of 2025. Again, this is a $1.1 million trade. JD, for those of you who don't know, is a Chinese stock. The Chinese government has been doing basically about everything they can to somehow, some way get their markets to rise. And it's kind of working in the short term at least. But basically, these call options are in the money. They have a good amount of time to them. The stock is at a historically low level. And the overall risk to reward with this stock right here is pretty tempting. In my opinion, as long as you're willing to give it the time it needs, the setup is pretty good. So I will keep a very close eye on this one going forward.
Yeah, and the big thing with this is just giving it that time, right? Like there is, I would say, a lot of good opportunities on China stocks in the short term. Like BABA looks fantastic, and a few other of the China stocks are setting up a lot better than JD right now. Like BABA's been kind of pushing up the past couple weeks, whereas JD's been kind of stuck here, with a lot of doji candles on the daily, just kind of stuck. So I will be looking for them to push through this big resistance around like $24 to $25. Once they get through there, I think the game can start to change a little bit for this one. But I think the big thing, like you mentioned, is just really giving it that time that it needs. And other than that, I think it's a great play, right? Like I always say, I'm not a huge fan of the China stocks, but at the end of the day, they're providing really good opportunities right here.
Yeah, so keep a close eye on them going forward. But Tom, I'm pretty excited to see how explosive this week has started off. It's only Monday, and we're already seeing a lot of big moves in both directions. The cryptos are starting off the week phenomenally. At the same time, Zoom had a really good move in after hours, and then we're even seeing some bearish moves like with Google, So there's a lot of different action in multiple different areas in the market. And, in terms of short-term trading, this is all you can ask for. When the market's boring and doing nothing, that's when it gets hard to trade. But in environments like this, there are a lot of opportunities in multiple different directions. If you want in on the action, come join us on the StockedUp trading floor. Our bots crushed it today. And while we're in the Discord, we might as well give a shout out to today's member of the day, which is Joe, who just crushed it. So it looks like he grew grew his account by around 9% today, and you've been a pretty active member. So keep up the great work, Joe, and keep on rolling. And again, if you guys are interested in the Stocked Up trading floor, you'll get access to our army of trading bots. You can chat with Tom and myself all day long. You get access to the big money, multi-million-dollar trades every single day before they are posted in the videos, and you get access to a whole bunch more. If we explained it, this video might be 2 hours long, but either way, come join us. It's going to be that first link in the description and the comments down below. But besides that, Tom, do you have any last minute thoughts before we close out?
Yeah, just going back to the earnings one more time. Tomorrow, there's not really too much on the radar. We have Norwegian Cruise Lines before open and after hours. There's a couple outliers down here, like Beyond Meat and Lemonade. So keep those on the radar if you're looking at earnings. Even Rocket Lab is reporting, which I think will be pretty interesting for the space sector. But let's go, Mike. It's going to be a fun week, and let's keep up this good momentum. I'd love to see that movement out of the crypto sector. I think that's going to be the big hot watcher for tomorrow.
No doubt. It's been a little bit since we've seen the cryptos move like this, Tom. Nvidia and the chip stocks have been really stealing the headlines lately, but back in December, all the hype was with the cryptos, so it's good to see this type of action come back.
It really is, and I can't believe I'm saying Bitcoin's at 55,000 again, Mike. Like, we scroll out, the all-time high is right around like 65 to 67, almost 70,000, but, you know, we're not too far away in the grand scheme of things. Bitcoin's been recovering up so well since the beginning of the year, and hey, it's good to see that hype coming back in. Hopefully, these stocks like Coinbase keep going, and don't forget about the crypto ETFs, guys, like IBIT either.
There we go. No matter what this week, stay adaptable, keep that risk in check, follow the money, and besides that, guys, let's have an awesome week in the markets.